Number 14. Make Sheer Force's boost apply twice to the Elemental Fangs, one for each added effect. It makes sense when you think about it because the Elemental Fangs are, to my knowledge, the only moves in the game with two added effects, and having Sheer Force's boost apply twice would actually make them really freaking powerful. And considering what actually does get Sheer Force that may not be uncalled for, I mean, just doing a quick calculation, I think that would put the power before stab or anything like that at about 110. Accuracy would be 95. So 110 power, 95 accuracy. It's really freaking strong, but it's not going to break anything considering what gets Sheer Force. I mean, just think of what would really love for that to happen. Steelix would go buck wild with that. What about, say, Drudigon or Mawile? That would be awesome. Darmanitan, it gets Fire Fang, and as a result of that, it would become a better option over Fire Punch, but I still think most people would just run Flare Blitz because it's just so really devastating. Its power is 156 after Sheer Force versus 110 and 95 accuracy. So Darmanitan, it depends on whether you want the recoil or not, but I haven't seen Fire Punch Darmanitan in like forever, so maybe Fire Fang getting the boost twice would provide a decent alternative. Feraligatr, if they ever decide to finally give Sheer Force to Feraligatr, Ice Fang would also become a really strong move in its arsenal. And just a thought, by the way, if that happens, I would really, really, really like Nidoking to get those Elemental Fangs, because right now, the way Nidoking is being played is, well, all special all the time, even though, you know, it has a higher attack stat. It's just being wasted because of all those special moves that it gets that have added effect and are really powerful from the get-go, like Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Earth Power, Thunderbolt. The list goes on and on. So I'd really like for to add some sort of versatility aspect to Nidoking as well. Number 15. Redesign Moody. Moody is one of those abilities that are just way too good. You may not get that feeling from just reading what it does, but trust me, once you've experienced it, you will agree with the consensus that it needs to be banned and forgotten and buried far, far away. I mean, when it was allowed, which didn't last very long, thankfully, Bidoof! Freaking Bidoof! Unevolved Bidoof to boot was able to pull off 6-0 wins, full sweeps, all by itself. That is absolute madness. So we gotta change something somehow. The way it works currently is that at the end of each turn, Moody increases one stat by 2 levels and lowers another by 1. And the kicker is that it includes accuracy and evasion. So if you're lucky enough to get a 2-level evasion boost at some point, well, it's GG no re. It's like, good luck hitting me. I don't care if it lowers, I don't know, maybe special defense. Doesn't really matter because suddenly you're a whole lot harder to hit. And, yeah, just having a 2-level boost to your main attack stat or speed can be equally devastating given that it's on the right Pokemon for the job. But yeah, it was just too good. It was banned from overuse, and eventually Smeargle got it. So now it could baton pass those boosts to just about anything it pleased. So that's when Moody was just banned from everything, including Ubers. So it really needs to be changed. I thought maybe, lowering the increase of the stat that's being increased from 2 levels to just 1. But at that point, that would essentially cripple Moody, make it essentially useless, because unless you get lucky, you're not going to be gaining much, and sometimes you're going to be losing more than you gain. I don't know if you know where I'm going with that, but I don't think that's a really good idea, because that was the way that Cerebi was advertising at when the Black and White first came out in the first few days. It was supposed to only increase that random stat by 1 level, decrease another by 1, and everything said, oh wow, it's completely useless, it's garbage. And then it was found out fairly rapidly that the increase was actually 2 stats, which became a problem, as I just explained. So going back, well, I wouldn't say going back because it never really was that way, but going to that thing where it's +1 to one stat, -1 to the other, really isn't that useful. So I decided, to just completely change everything. So my suggestion for Moody, at the end of each turn, it has a 50% chance of increasing 1 stat by 1 level, and to appease the Smoggonites, we're going to exclude accuracy and evasion from that. So basically, it's sort of a less reliable speed boost that can increase any stat at random, but it would only work half the time. I don't think that is something that's really going to break the game all that much, and if it is, just lower that chance even more, I guess. It's fairly easy to manipulate. But yeah, just the fact that you can use protect and substitute and stuff like that, but you're not going to be guaranteed to get that boost at the end of each turn. So right there, that's a pretty big change in and of itself, in my opinion. Now, is 50% too high? Is it too low? It's very hard to do without it's very hard to figure out without proper testing. But hey, this isn't something that's going to happen. I'm just throwing ideas around here. Feel free to discuss whether you feel that percentage is too high or too low in the comments below. I don't really care. In fact, I would like your input on that, on what you think about that. Number 16. Allow Toxic Boost, Flare Boost, and Marvel Scale to cancel out their respective statuses' damage. Now I know I threw 2 completely different types of abilities in there under the same item, so let's just get started with Toxic Boost and Flare Boost, which are abilities that are unique to their one Pokemon that get them, Zangoose and Drifblim, respectively. I thought about maybe increasing the percentage, the attack or special attack boost that they get with those abilities, considering that, well, when you can compare Toxic Boost to Guts, they're basically the same thing, except Toxic Boost is worse because it only works with poison, whereas typically you want to use your Burn with Guts, considering that Guts already cancels out the attack drop that is caused by the Burn. But no, the point I'm trying to make is that Toxic Boost is just a worse Guts given to one Pokemon. So I think we can afford to make it better. Problem is, though, increasing the attack boost from 50% to, let's say, 100%, I honestly don't know if that would break it or something, because, okay, story time with Slowflake. When I was coming up with these ideas, I thought of maybe having Harvest work all the time instead of just 50% of the time. But the problem that would create is that if you pair Harvest with a Citrus Berry, Protect, Substitute, and Leech Seed, and you increase the percentage from 50% to 100%, then it's not too far-fetched to think that it might actually break both Exeggutor and Tropius. You heard me! It would break these two just by improving Harvest to what we thought it did in the first days of Generation 5. But yeah, what I'm getting at is that those sets with Harvest and the Citrus Berry and all that stuff are already very, very effective. on the never used ladder. So increase that to 100%. It's guaranteed that you get your citrus berry back. Then you can just spam protect and substitute until the end of time while getting HP back with leech seed, and that would be cheap as hell. To be perfectly honest with you, I said it would probably break them. That's just a guess on my part. But if it's so good on the never used ladder, then if you improve the ability, then it might become just as effective, if not more, on higher ladders. So this is kind of the logic that I went with Toxic Boost and Flare Boost, because Zangoose has already a pretty decent attack stat, so increasing that even further, outright doubling it if it's poisoned, that might be a little too much. But I still needed to make Toxic Boost and Flare Boost, better than Guts at something, even though Flare Boost boosts special attack and not attack, so it's not in direct competition with Guts, but that's not the point. So what I came up with is simply to just improve your survivability if you decide to use those abilities by just canceling out the damage from the status. Drifblim would especially like that, considering that it's already quite a bulky Pokemon, and it can also give Zangoose maybe one extra turn to wreak some havoc on some Pokemon in the lower tiers, I guess. But that would still be an improvement over what we know now, and that's what I was going for. Of course, it's not going to make Zangoose and Drifblim into powerhouses overnight, but it's at least going to make them a little better, and it's going to make those really limited abilities do something better than Guts, even if they're just not as good as Guts otherwise. And as for Marvel Scale, well, I won't hide it. I'm a total sucker for Milotic. I really like it, and I'm sort of sad that it hasn't been overused for a while, actually, and I would really like for it to be better, So, Marvel Scale is an ability that is completely exclusive to Milotic, and what it does is that it increases its defense by 50% when it has a status. Unfortunately, having a status will often work against that. I mean, sure, Milotic is probably better than some other Pokemon at absorbing burn and poison because it has Marvel Scale to fall back on, but still, you have an ability that's supposed to improve your defense, but on the other hand, you're expected to lose some HP. And back in the day where Milotic was actually really good, it wasn't that much of a problem, but now it really needs something special to shine. And you know how I mentioned that, Guts doesn't have that problem with the burn because it's programmed to cancel out the attack drop from the burn? Well, I thought of allowing Marvel Scale to do something similar and just cancel out the damage that you'd get from a burn or poison and still get that all-important defensive boost, which is, of course, the Milotic's lower defense, so it would suddenly make it a lot harder to kill. And a really good status absorber, too. Maybe you can send it in when Toxic Spikes are on the field, or I don't know if giving it a Burn Orb or a Toxic Orb would be a good idea. Leftovers would probably be better, but nonetheless, it would still be a much better toy to play with for Milotic, and that's what I'm really going for here.